and move on with our Civil War unit. Today we're going to focus on the first battle, which is the Battle of Fort Sumter. So for our learning targets, I want us to remember that you guys should be able to describe some of the interactions between the Union and the Confederacy, or the North and the South. Okay, so the interactions can mean their conflict, because were they getting along? No, they weren't. So you need to remember, you should be able to describe different types of interactions that they had. The Battle of Fort Sumter was the first battle of the Civil War, so it's between the Union and the Confederacy. Okay? Also, your second learning target, you can explain how the Battle of Fort Sumter affected the Civil War, which it was the first battle, so it started causing it. Okay? So keep those in mind. We've got a video to watch and then a class kick activity, okay?
Even before the Civil War, the nation was divided north and south. Slavery was at the heart of issues involving economic, politics, and sectional power. These issues boiled over in the halls of Congress at Harper's Ferry, Virginia, and elsewhere. The slave labor of the agricultural South was the fuel that drove the region's economy. The industrial North was driven by a manufacturing-based economy. This diversity helped fan the flames of secession and would have significant impact upon the coming war. The presidential election of 1860 proved to be the final spark that tore the country apart. The Democratic Party split into two sectional factions. Nominees Stephen Douglas and John C. Breckinridge represented the North and South, respectively. The Constitutional Union Party sent John Bell as their candidate, with Abraham Lincoln as the Republican Party's nominee. Lincoln's anti-slavery views were seen by many Southerners as a direct threat to their way of life. Therefore, when Abraham Lincoln won the election of 1860, Southern states were outraged. On December 20th, 1860, South Carolina seceded from the Union. 6 other states soon followed, forming the Confederate States of America. With the Union dissolved, the Civil War was inevitable. By March 1861, nearly all the forts and naval yards in the seceded states had been seized by the new government. Charleston Harbor was among a handful of coastal strongholds that remained in federal possession. When South Carolina seceded from the Union, there were 3 U.S. fortifications in Charleston Harbor. Castle Pinckney was built in 1810 to provide for inner harbor defense. By 1860, it was in need of major repair, and its garrison consisted of only 2 people, a widowed sergeant and his teenage daughter. Fort Moultrie, first built in 1776, with succeeding forts built on the same site, was completed in 1809. With 50 cannon mounted, it served as the major fortification to defend Charleston Harbor until the beginning of the war. Work began on Fort Sumter in 1829. Sitting on a man-made island, the brick fort was 90% complete in 1860. Fort Sumter was an imposing sight and the most defensible fortification in Charleston Harbor. In November 1860, Major Robert Anderson assumed command of U.S. fortifications in Charleston Harbor with headquarters at Fort Moultrie. Soon after South Carolina seceded, Major Anderson moved his command of 85 officers and men to Fort Sumter under cover of darkness. Fort Sumter was the safest and most defensible position he could hold against attack with a limited number of men and supplies at hand. Charlestonians were outraged, and within a few days, South Carolina militia had seized all federal property in the area except Fort Sumter. They occupied Castle Pinckney and seized Fort Moultrie. In defiance of the federal presence in Charleston Harbor, the Southerners rebuilt batteries and constructed new fortifications on Sullivan's Island, on Morris Island, and on James Island. When Anderson and his troops first entered Fort Sumter, the fort was far from complete. For 3 months, Anderson prepared Fort Sumter for combat. By April 12th, however, fewer than half the needed cannon were ready, and even these lacked soldiers to man them. As the Federals strengthened Sumter, Confederate forces could be seen building batteries and mounting cannons along the harbor shore. 43 Southern cannon
So
were
if you
trained
pay
on
attention,
Fort
all
Sumter,
these red
and more than
dots
3,500
are the
Confederate
Confederate
soldiers
soldiers,
and
and that
Charleston
one
Harbor
little blue
defense.
dot is the Union.
Anderson was running low on provisions, and in January, a federal relief ship left New York with supplies for Fort Sumter. When the Star of the West appeared at the entrance to Charleston Harbor, cadets from Charleston's elite Citadel Military Academy opened fire upon the unarmed ship. The Star of the West turned back without reaching the fort.
What is that? No, it's the cannons.
So the ship was trying to meet the fort to give them like more
By
supplies.
April of 1861, Major Robert Anderson was in a tight fix. Confederates surrounded Fort Sumter and were expected to attack at any time. To avoid war, the Confederate government ordered General P.G.T. Beauregard to demand evacuation of Fort Sumter and, if refused, to reduce it. His aides visited Fort Sumter twice under flag of truce and presented Anderson with the ultimatum, but without success. At 4:30 a.m. on April 12th, a shot fired from Fort Johnson on James Island burst over Fort Sumter and signaled the Confederate batteries in Charleston Harbor to commence an assault on the fort. The Civil War had begun. At daybreak, Union forces opened fire in response. Charlestonians
there's
watched
fire
as the
coming
bombardment
from
of the
all
fort
three sides
continued
into
for
their
34 hours.
That's not even fair.
During the second day of the battle, artillery fire from Fort Moultrie set parts of Fort Sumter on fire. With so few men, Anderson could not fight the fire and the Confederates at the same time. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, arrangements were made for Anderson to surrender the fort.
Yeah, we're strong. We don't need to go. You surrendered.
On April 14, 1861, after a 50-gun salute to the U.S. flag, Anderson and his men withdrew to New York aboard a Union supply ship. Shortly after, Confederate forces occupied Fort Sumter with photographers right behind.
Okay, can you go ahead and pause it, please, Glenn?
For the next 4 years, Fort Sumter
Okay, so we're not going to watch the rest of it, but as y'all saw, that the Fort Sumter was, literally surrounded, right?
Surrounded.
Like, there was nothing that they could do. So even though the Union does end up winning the Civil War, this was the first battle, and the Confederacy did win. Did anyone catch what they tried to do, though, so they wouldn't have to go to war?
They just tried to bomb them.
Josh?
They tried to tell them to evacuate peacefully.
Right, okay, so they gave them, did it say 2 chances, I think, right?
Yeah.
They went and said, the generals went like on their night or dark of night and went to Fort Sumter, and they told them to peacefully evacuate, right? To go ahead and leave so they didn't have to start the war.
But we don't want to leave.
But they did not leave. They chose not to leave. They stood their ground. And so the Confederacy did fire. Okay? So if we're thinking about our different types of interactions between the North and the South, anyone remember or give us some reasons? Like, what differences did they have that might cause conflict? Shaylee?
Maybe because some people wanted Abraham Lincoln as a president, some people wanted John
Okay.
as president.
Okay, good. So some people were happy that Abraham Lincoln was voted president. Some were not happy. So that's a good difference. So that might cause some conflict, right? What else? You remember the difference between the South and the North and their economies? Abby?
The South wanted slavery and the North did not want slavery.
Okay, good. So the South wanted slavery and the North didn't. Why?
Because they thought it wasn't fair. They thought
Right.
it all division between their people.
Okay. Nick? Okay, good. Yes, the South had those big plantations, right? So they needed that slave labor to have more profits. Whereas what was the North?
Industrial.
Okay, good. Yes. So the North was industrial, whereas the South was what? It's an A word.
Agricultural.
Yes, good. Agricultural. Right. So they have different perspectives on what to do. With the land, they have different uses for it, right? So we know that some people wanted Abraham Lincoln, some didn't. They wanted slavery, some didn't. And this is what is going to end up causing the war, right? I mean, that's the whole conflict.
Yeah.
Okay? Alright, so now what I want y'all to go ahead and do is put in the code up here for Core 4 on Class Cake. It's 42Q F6B. If you can't see it, just raise your hand. That's if we get to it. So it's important to remember that the South and the North very rarely got along during this time period. And they had lots of different interactions. Because we saw that they did end up going into battle, but they also tried to compromise first, right? They didn't just want to go into war.
The top one, in the blue.
No, I do not. Let me pull up the class. Okay, the code is 42QF6V.
I have it. Fort Sumner.
We're going to do it together. So your first slide says Fort Sumner, April 12, 1861. We've got a picture up here. What is this picture an example of? What type of source?
Hydro.
Okay, it is the war, but what type of source is it?
Hydro. A pig.
It's the ships that we're trying to get to the Confederacy.
Okay, so it's an actual picture, right? So what type of source is it? Think about it.
I know it.
Patience. Thank you. Yes. Okay. It's a primary source right here. It's a picture. It kind of shows us. I think it might actually be a drawing, but it's showing us exactly what happened.
I think that's just how their pictures are back then.
I think you're. Yeah. I was gonna say. I think. But yeah. So primary source, right? It's giving us a look at what exactly it was, right? This isn't like a reenactment. They're showing us exactly what it is. It's a primary source. All right. So it's a real short passage. Someone like to read, raise their hand and read the first paragraph. All right, Abby, go ahead and read. Please read loud so we can all hear you.
Okay. The Civil War began when the Confederates attacked Fort Sumner in Charleston, South Carolina. They captured Fort Sumner and flew the rebel flag. Then President Lincoln gathered his militia. Although Lincoln wanted Robert E. Lee to command the Union Army, Lee declined.
Okay, good. So when it says militia, that's just another word for like an army, right? Go ahead and read our second one.
Soon after, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina
Seceded.
seceded from the Union, totaling 11 states in the Confederacy. The Union had 2 states, 21 states, and their population was 5 times larger than the Confederacy. Lincoln blockaded the southern fort, which limited the South to supply. Lee became the commander of the military in Virginia for the Confederates. By July, Lincoln gave a speech to Congress and they called for 500,000 men.
Okay, so if we look back in this paragraph, it's talking about succession. Can you remember what succession is and how it applied to the Civil War? Because it's kind of another cause and effect of the interactions of the Confederacy and the Union not getting along. So what did the Confederacy do? They didn't like what Lincoln was trying to do. They didn't like that he was president.
They were trying to keep their slaves.
They were trying to kill him.
They weren't trying to kill him. Well, someone did end up assassinating him, but they weren't trying to necessarily kill him. They were trying to keep their slaves. So what did they do?
Built the wall.
They built a wall. Marie? Remember the word succession. They seceded. We talked about it all last week. What'd they do? Abby?
They parted?
Yes, they parted. They left. They're like, we don't agree. Yeah, so y'all remember that.
Yeah.
They left. They formed the Confederacy, which is why we have the Union and the Confederacy, the North and the South. They didn't like what was going on. They didn't like what was happening. So they said, you know what? We're going to go. We're going to create our own. So when they say seceded, that's what it's talking about. So if we look, it says that the Union had 21 states, and their population was 5 times larger than the Confederacy. So already, the Union is starting off with more states and more people. So Lincoln wanted General Lee for the Union, but General Lee said no. He wanted to be part of the Confederacy, so he was a general for the Confederacy. Okay? We're going to go through. If you go ahead and click to the next slide, we have a cause and effect worksheet. Okay. So we're going to go through and we're going to do these together. Can anyone tell me what the definition of a cause is? What is a cause?
Something that happened.
Carly?
Something that makes something happen.
Okay, something that makes something happen. So the exact definition is a person or thing that gives rise to an action or condition. Then can someone tell me what an effect is? Mariah?
Effect is something that happens because of another.
Right, okay, so she said an effect is something that happens because of another thing. That is also correct. The exact definition is a change that is a result or consequence of an action or other cause. Okay, so we all know cause and effect. You've done it before. Those were new. So if we look at number 1, it says Confederates attacked Fort Sumter. So the Civil War began. Then we have Confederates attacked Fort Sumter and the Civil War began. So we're going to figure out which one is cause and effect. So if you think you know which one is cause and which one is effect, raise your hand and you can come up here and answer.
Oh.
Let's see who has a cause. All right, Allie.
Are you going to, can we just put C?
Yeah, you can put C or E. That's fine. Okay, and why did you choose those two, Allie?
Because if they would have attacked them, that would.
Okay, right. So if the Confederates hadn't attacked Fort Sumter, then the Civil War would not have began. Good job. Who can read number 2 for me? All right, Carly, go ahead and read number 2.
President Lincoln gathered his militia because the Confederates captured Fort Sumter.
Okay, good. Carly, can you go ahead up there and choose which one is the cause and which one is the effect?
I know the answer.
Okay. Okay, good. So can you explain?
If they want to capture Fort Sumter, they wouldn't have it gathered.
Okay, good. So if the Confederates hadn't captured Fort Sumter, what does it mean when it said they captured Fort Sumter?
Like defeated them.
Okay,
No,
defeated
like they
them.
surrounded them.
They surrounded them. What else? So they surrounded them, and then what did they do?
And then they started to attack.
Right, they attacked, and then they
Defeated. No, they tried to win.
Right, they took it over, so defeated, but yeah, took it over. Good. All right, so number 3, Lincoln wanted Robert E. Lee to command his military because he was a strong leader. So we have Lincoln wanted Robert E. Lee to command his military, and Robert E. Lee was a strong leader. Mariah, please go choose cause and effect.
Or wait.
Can you
Robert Lee was a strong leader.
okay, so explain how your train of thought on that.
Because he said, right here, he said because he was a strong leader, which makes it seem like this would be the cause. He said because.
So, okay, so
Like, I don't know how to explain it.
I see what you're saying. So it says because, but we gotta think about it. So Lincoln wanted Robert E. Lee to command his military.
Right. Oh, because.
But why? I was gonna say, but why did? So we look here. Why did he want him to command his military?
Because he was.
Right. So see how you did that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a tricky one, guys.
I don't know.
Okay. So let me explain this a little more. So if we reread it, it says Lincoln wanted Robert E. Lee to command his military because he was a strong leader. So it's hard because right at first we see this part's the first part, right?
Right.
But if we look at it, the cause would be that Robert E. Lee was a strong leader. Because if that's what he's doing, that's his action, then that's going to cause the effect of people wanting him to lead their military, right? Because if he's a strong leader, what's he going to help them do? Win. Okay, good. So Lincoln wanted Robert E. Lee to command his military to the effect, and the cause was that he was a strong leader.
Can I erase some more?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and use it. So that one is tricky. Make sure you gotta read them.
There's a number 5. Well, I erased that.
Number 5?
Yeah, number
All right.
4.
So yeah, there's 4 and 5. Okay. So number 4. Many states didn't agree with a national government, So they seceded from the Union. And what did we say seceding was again?
Left.
Right, they left. And how exactly did it apply to the Civil War? What happened? The who left the who?
The Confederacy left America.
What? They left the
Union.
Yes, the Confederacy left the Union. So we have many states didn't agree. Guys, please focus up here. Many states didn't agree with the national government. They seceded from the Union. Who can come up? Who hasn't gone yet that wants to do a cause and effect? All right, Hunter, come on up. Which one is the cause? Which one's the effect? Okay, good job. Can you explain that to us? Why you chose which one you did?
Because it says so they from the Union.
They seceded from the Union. So why did you choose that one as the effect?
Because it said national government they seceded from the.
Okay, so it's kind of the order they went in. And since they didn't agree with the national government, and we just said seceded, meaning like they left them. They left, right? They didn't want to do what they did. Right? All right, good job. Awesome. So that one's pretty easy. It goes in order, but you gotta be careful because sometimes they don't always go in order. All right, number 5. The South had limited supplies because Lincoln blockaded the southern ports. Anyone know what blockaded means?
Like blocked off.
Yeah, they blocked
Not
off.
allowed to have it.
All right, Glenn, come on up. Which one's cause? Which one's effect? Okay, good. Why did you choose those two?
Because they wouldn't have limited supplies and Lincoln didn't block them.
Okay, good. Can you repeat that a little louder?
Yeah.
Miss Wilson.
They wouldn't have
Yeah,
limited
sorry.
supplies if limited supplies.
And then-
They wouldn't have limited supplies
Oh, he's the same as me. Sorry.
if Lincoln wouldn't have blocked them off.
Okay, good. Right. So if Lincoln hadn't gone and blockaded the southern ports, the South would have had plenty of supplies, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Right.
All right, so make sure, you want to go ahead and erase that? Make sure that you have your hand raised so I can get a grade for this.
They blocked them. What did they do? What can we do once we're done? They blocked it.
I'm going to give you all directions just a second.
Okay. They all did on another class of kids. Okay. I know, jeez.
Okay, so now what I kind of want us to do is come up with our own cause and effect from the reading. Okay, so I've got the reading up here. If y'all want to flip back to that first page. No, stay in. Go back to slide number 1 with our reading.
I did.
Okay, you can log back in. The code's up here, or we also have the reading up here. So, for example, I'll do the first one. So, it says right here, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina seceded from the Union. Now, there are 11 states in the Confederacy. What is the cause, and what is the effect? Mariah?
The cause is.
So, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina seceded from the Union. Now there are 11 states in the Confederacy.
The cause is Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee. Seceded from the Union, and then the effect.
Okay, good. So, the cause is that Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina decided to leave the Union. They seceded. And now that means there are 11 states in the Confederacy. So who still has more? The Union or the Confederacy?
The Union.
The Union does, right? How many states do they have?
50.
21, yes, good.
21, yeah.
They have 21, and the Confederacy only has 11. Good. All right, so I'm going to give y'all a minute to read through and see if you can find any other cause and effects. Okay? There's not going to be a ton because we did most of them, but I just want y'all to keep reading through and see if you can find any.
You just sounded bad as country. You said that. Sorry. Wait, could that be one? They captured Fort Sumner and flew the rebel flag?
Ow!
And President Lincoln at the first, they captured This little sense. And this one. So, like, they captured Fort Summer and flew the rebel flag. And that was called. And then right here.
Oh my God!
That's literally
Okay, y'all, we still have 11 minutes of class left. Get it together. Thank you. So could that be one?